everybody, welcome along to this new mini-series running on Property Tribes all this week. This is the first instalment of Simon Says, and my guest all this week is Simon Shinerock, the chairman of the Choices Group. Simon, I'm really excited about this series because we're going to be talking about landlord life post-COVID, and you're such a great commentator for this topic. Just give us a little reminder again of your background, because you've been in estate agency for literally decades, haven't you?
Yes, Vanessa. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, I guess I've been in estate agency for just over 30 years now. That's when we started Choices back in June 1989, so coming up to 31 years. And in that time, I've made more than my fair share of mistakes. So that's probably qualified me to hopefully know some of the good things from the bad things anyway.
Fantastic. And we're also going to be highlighting the advanced rent product, advanced rent option, which, you've always been an innovator in estate agency, and you came up with this about a year or so ago. And it's a product that's going to come into its own, actually, I think, during this kind of post-COVID-19 fallout, because there's so much uncertainty around. And this is one thing, that landlords can get absolute certainty from. It's a year's rental payment up front.
That's right. It's so simple. I came up with the idea just over a year ago, and it was a natural extension of our primary tenancy business model. It enables us to pay landlords a year's rent up front. I was very fortunate to have the finance to do so. And therefore, yes, we're offering landlords who are interested the opportunity to get a year's rent in advance. And currently we're just charging our normal standard full management fees with no discounts, I have to say, just so that's pretty clear. But nevertheless, it's still less than you'll be charged by someone like Foxton's, all in, and you get the benefit and the peace of mind of getting your entire year's rent up front. And it's been fairly widely publicised, and anyone who wants more details can just ask us, and we're very happy to give all the details and all the terms and conditions that go along with it.
Indeed, and I will put a link to the advanced rent option information underneath this video for those that want to explore further. And actually on day 3, Simon, we're going to be talking about newcomer landlords in a post-COVID world, and I think the advanced rent option is going to be of particular interest to them. So we will discuss that further. Today's instalment, though, the first of our Simon Says mini-series, is property prices post-COVID. Very trending on Property Tribes. Ultimately, it's very early days. Nobody really knows, but we want to hear your view, Simon.
Well, I think my views on property prices, like share prices, is that I've got this crystal ball, but unfortunately it's non-functioning. So immediately I get it working, I can give you a 100% accurate prediction. Having said that, like everyone, I've got my opinion and my view. And I've seen and read everything from the very negative things that people are saying about a price collapse to the very positive things that people are saying. They say that the difference between an optimist and a pessimist is a pessimist sees a problem with every opportunity, and an optimist sees an opportunity with every problem. Me, I think I am much more of an optimist anyway, as it happens by nature. We've been through several downturns in my 30 years, so it's not just a question of being in denial. I have seen some really bad setbacks. But I think the key to this, really, if you look in the medium term, because it's hard to look in the short term. But if you look in the medium term, I think the key to it all is 0.1% interest rates, very low inflation, and the threat of a depression. So my feelings, and I've made them pretty clear, is that I think that there will be an era that we've never seen before, in which money is helicoptered into the economy in the form of grants and payments and all sorts of things that are going to try to stave off what could otherwise be a huge depression. And I think that the means are there by which we can recover very quickly from this downturn. I mean, if we recovered from the Second World War, when we were coming out of the Great Depression, and we had to mobilise ourselves militarily, I'm sure we can come out of what is a few months of a hiccup with a nasty virus. I don't want to minimize it in any way, but you can't compare the two. So my view has always been that it will be a V-shaped type recovery. Now, does that mean that there won't be bargains coming out of this, and that some sectors won't be, shall we say, affected differently or worse or better than others? And I think that obviously there's going to be a huge variance across the market.
Yeah.
I think quality is always the watchword with property if you can afford it. I think that the trend that there has been to build ever smaller properties and to cram people in to ever smaller spaces, hopefully is going to sort of slow down, if not stop. I think that people who've relied on HMOs and Airbnb type returns are in for some, troubled times. I think room rentals are going to be difficult because I feel that people will be reluctant to share with strangers for a while anyway. But I think that in general, the prices, rather than the rentals, the prices of the quality properties, particularly anything with a garden coming out of this, are going to hold up remarkably well. But I also think that the properties that are, incredibly tightly squeezed in with no real outside spaces, they're the ones that are likely to suffer the most. And I also think there's going to be an effect in city centres because for a time anyway, I feel that the transport links are going to be so difficult. And I think, cars are going to be the line of first resort, if you like, that people will use. But in London, for example, the roads are already complete chaos. So you can't squeeze any more cars on the road in London. And I think until the transport links normalise, there could be some quite major changes in some of the postcodes in London.
Yeah. Well, you're sounding very optimistic there, Simon, which is good to hear. And I think, just even today, there's talk of negative interest rates.
There is.
So we really are in uncharted waters. But where do you think we'll see the first evidence of whether prices are going to just be stagnant and restart from where they froze, or where there's going to be declines? Because one of the places where there's real-time results is actually in the auctions. So could that be one of the places where we get the first indicators?
Maybe. The thing about auctions is it attracts a certain type of seller. Again, if I come back to the interest rates, which I think is the key, you've mentioned negative interest rates. People would never have imagined negative interest rates. Nope. But again, the question is, if you look at what will cause the most damage to the economy, it would be deflation rather than inflation. A point at which nobody wants to spend any money because their money's getting more valuable by the day. That's what caused the Great Depression. But what we didn't have back then was the things like negative interest rates to fight that depression. We have got that now. But I think with auctions, people tend to sell either because they have to go to an auction to make sure that there's fair play, which is what happens when you get things like repossessions, or they're desperate, or there's something wrong with the property. Those are, the usual reasons, or perhaps there's been a death. Now, if you look at the repossessions as the better marker than an auction, why would there be a lot of repossessions if the interest rates are as low as they are?
Yeah.
And the answer, so that's what's going to hold back the stock. Now, I think it's still going to be about supply and demand, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So the only thing I can see that will reduce demand a bit is I think a lot of young people will remain at home in a way that they haven't before, because they'll be a bit scared to go out and rent a room and things like that. But I still think that the basics are there in the market, where you've got too many people and not enough property. And what will affect demand other than that is whether or not people have money and they have jobs. But once again, the kind of people who buy property are probably going to recover from this much faster than we think. Yeah. So there could be a point. I think right now, from what we're seeing in our agencies, there is a sort of post-lockdown mini boom going on in terms of interest. Okay, I think everybody thinks that's going to peter out fairly quickly, and it probably will. Okay, so we are not going to have the great year maybe that we would have had this not happened. But I think a lot depends on how fast things return to a semblance of normal. But you've also got to remember that people aren't going to spend the money on the foreign holidays that they used to have. They're not going to spend the money on, a lot of things like cars unfortunately for some people, and restaurants and all the other things that they did spend money on, which is going to mean they're going to have more money to save. Okay. And that means they're going to have more disposable income to pay for cheaper mortgages. Yeah. So you don't have to be sort of Einstein to work out, if you can't go out as much as you used to, your home's going to become, in my view, more important to you, not less important to you.
Very good points. And of course, the other thing is the availability of finance. And we're seeing lenders every day coming back into the space with 75, even 85% loan to value buy to let mortgages. So there's a good supply of mortgage finance as well, which is going to enable landlords to, start out if they're a newcomer, or indeed carry on building their portfolios. But very interesting times. And tomorrow, Simon, we're going to talk to you about rents post-COVID. Interested to hear your views then, but that's the end of today's instalment of Simon Says. So please join us tomorrow, and we'll be back with Simon. He's over in Spain at the moment, and we'll be talking about rents in lockdown and how Simon thinks they are going to fare. So please join us tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like and subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and pop along to propertytribes.com, where we're hosting our discussions. And if you've got any questions for Simon, please do drop them on the thread below this video, and he would be delighted to answer. So we'll see you tomorrow, Simon.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye.